This is how to crochet the crocodile stitch part 1. For our beginning chain, we're going to start with multiples of 6 plus 3 for our turning chain. Then we're going to add a double crochet into that third chain from the hook. After that, we are going to start by chaining 2, and then we're going to skip 2 chains on the bottom there and put 2 double crochet into that third chain. And we're going to repeat that all the way to the end. So we're going to do 2 chains, skip 2, and then we're going to add 2 double crochet into that third chain. Our row is going to end with 2 double crochet into the very last chain. Now the crocodile stitch is worked in alternating rows of foundation rows like this one and scale rows, which will be in part 2. The foundation rows are worked from the right to the left, and then the scale rows are going to be worked from the left to the right, meaning we're not actually turning our work after every single round. If you like these kind of close-up stitch tutorials, be sure to like and follow. I post them every single day on my page. And if you're done with your row, go ahead and move on to part 2. It'll be linked in the comments. This is how to crochet the crocodile stitch part 2. We just finished our first foundation row in part 1, and now we're going to work on the scales. For this, we're going to pivot our work so that the very left double crochet is facing the top, and then we're going to add 5 front post double crochet around that post. If you don't know how to do the front post double crochet, let me know in the comments and I'll link that video below. But for this row, instead of turning, we are going to pivot it back and forth, and you'll see that in a moment. After the 5th front post double crochet, we are going to chain 1 for the tip of our scale, and then we're going to pivot it again so that the second double crochet is on top, and then we're going to add 5 more front post double crochet going in the opposite direction to finish our first scale. Now in this video, I'll show you how to do the first 2 scales, but the repetitions are going to be the same for the rest of the row, and then I'll show you how to finish your row. But this stitch is a little bit extensive, and I didn't want to skip any steps, so it's a little bit longer than I like. But this is what the first scale will look like, and for the second scale, we're going to move on not to the next, but the set of 2 double crochet after that. And we're going to do the same thing by adding 5 front post double crochet to one post, chain 1 for the tip, and then 5 front post double crochet going in the opposite direction on the other post. Now after this row, we're going to work 1 more foundation row, and then we're going to work another row of scales. Now for that row, our scales are going to be worked into the sets of 2 double crochet that we're skipping in this row to kind of create that offset effect, like a shingles effect. But we'll get to that in part 4 because I made a whole extra part for the next foundation row. Now, after you finish your scales for the row, what we're going to do is slip stitch into the center of the last scale. We're not going to chain or anything, just slip stitch into the very center. So that's the last row, last scale of the row. Add a slip stitch, and that's it. Check the comments for part 3. This is how to crochet the crocodile stitch part 3. In part 2, we just finished our first row of scales, and now we're going to add our next foundation row. So we're starting out from the center of the previous scale, and we're going to chain 3 for our turning chain. Then we're going to yarn over and insert another double crochet into that same space, chain 2, and now we are going to work into the center of the previous foundation chains set of 2 double crochet, and we're going to make sure that everything's included in it and add 2 more double crochet. I know I'm moving a little bit fast. If you need me to slow down on this part, I can, but it's once you actually do it, it's actually really simple. Then we're going to chain 2 again and add 2 more double crochet into the center of the other scale, chain 2 again and add 2 double crochet in here, and apparently I forgot to chain 2. Whoops. Yeah, about that. chain 2, and work into the center of the next scale. And that's it for the second foundation row. Part 4 will be in the comments.
This is how to crochet the crocodile stitch part 4.
5. I'm not going to show you how to do the scales, I'll just show you where to put them. So first we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to skip that first set, and we're going to put our first scale in this second set. Then we're going to skip the third set and put our next scale into the following set. And you repeat that until you get all the way to the end of the row. Then you're going to slip stitch between the 2 double crochet of the previous row to finish this row of scales. And part 5 will be in the comments. This is how to crochet the crocodile stitch part 5. This is going to be the last part unless you have any questions. So we just finished our last row of scales, and now we're going to start another foundation row. To do that, we're going to chain 3 and add 1 more double crochet in between the 2 double crochet that we just slip stitched into. Then we're going to chain 2 and add 2 double crochet into the center of the last scale, and then add 2 more chains and 2 more double crochet. I think you kind of get where this is going. So after this one, you're going to go back to part 2, repeat that row, and then part 3, repeat that foundation row, and then part 4, and repeat that scale row. It's all very repetitive from here on out. If you like these kind of close-up stitch tutorials, be sure to like and follow. I post them every single day on my page, along with other tips and tricks. And if you want to request a stitch, you can do that at any time, or if you have a question about this stitch or a project you're working on, I try to be responsive in the comments because I just want as many people to crochet as possible. So we're just going to finish working to the end of this row, and then we are going to look at it real quick. So again, this is our last foundation row. After this one, you're going to go back to part 2, work another foundation row, and then go back to part 3. Happy hooking!